dignitaries on the dais and in the front seats. Know everyone, so I don't call out. My dear students who are passing out, parents, and all those present here. When my friend Nishit said that you should come to this occasion, I actually dismissed it. Because when I remembered what used to happen in my time during Convocation, it was nothing like this. And so I was sitting there and listening to boring speeches and meaningless parades. And I thought, why should we have a party to that? And I was almost skipping it. But thanks to the trust I have in him and probably more luck, I chose to come, and now I know what I would have missed if I had not come. Yours is a magnificent institution, not just in infrastructure, in achievements. And when your chairperson read out that it is potentially possible that one of you will get, possibly in Olympics, an award, I tell you, you should all be proud of belonging here. It's an amazing. If India was to get Olympic awards and if Manipal could be behind it, what an amazing achievement. You as an alumni, you will be proud for a lifetime to belong to these portals. So it's fantastic. I must say that is congratulations, first of all, to all the students. I know how hard it is. Even if the rooms are air-conditioned and the food court is much better than what it used to be, studies are still pretty boring. And they are difficult to pass. And I understand you put in hard work so that you can get your certificate today. Appreciate your efforts and congratulations. I also congratulate the parents. I have been one of them. I have sent my children away. I know how it is. Even if you send them to the most accomplished places, you're always worried what they will be doing here. And so you see they have done the right things, now they'll get their degrees. So be proud of it and congratulations. I congratulate more particularly the faculty of the various disciplines. I'm recently into academics, and I can tell you running an academic institution of excellence, people underestimate it, is harder than running for-profit corporations. It takes tremendous planning, tremendous dedication to rigor and relevance simultaneously among the faculty to build and deliver world-class education. So congratulations to all of you who are leading this institution. We are actually, as a citizen, I am actually thankful and grateful to the Pai family for building these institutions of eminence. It is customary for speakers like me in Convocation. That is what I grew up with. When you go to YouTube and ask Convocation address, you will get a series of advice doled out at you. And that's exactly what all Convocation addresses are meant for. They're meant for some old grey fellow standing here and telling you, do this, don't do this, do this, don't do this. And that much like this gown, that history of burden of advising youngsters as they pass out through education is indeed a very, very big burden. What is scary is that there is almost an unquestioned assumption in this burden that the speaker knows it all and that his advice is God's gospel. I tell you with all my humility that experience does not guarantee wisdom, nor mere additional calendar years of life any readiness for future. As I look into my future, and I have one, it's not all over, I find it as uncertain, volatile and complex as you all probably will find as you go across. The rate of change into which we all have entered has never been anything like that before in human history. What we are faced today is not the challenge of change, but the rate at which the change is happening. Therefore, one of the interesting things about this is the conventional assumptions of giving advice based on experience actually is useless. For those who have experience, perhaps have the liability and not the strength of a legacy mindset that will not work into the future. So as I deliver this convocation address, I'm deeply aware and conscious that giving you advice to do what you should do next, exhort you to do this or that, is rather challenging and perhaps a little naive. Because we do not know, no one here can tell me with definitiveness what future is awaiting us, for it is so disruptive. Therefore, instead of giving you a list of advice, let me think aloud with you when I look into my future and when I, as a person, reflect on what's happening around us, especially in the context of life, education, jobs, etc. I have some thoughts I'll share with them, and the purpose here is address them to the youth, to the young people here who are passing out, hoping to appeal to your sense of imagination and your sense of thinking, that if these ideas resonate with you or they do not, choose your path and lead our way. For I believe those who look into the future and have a future have a greater responsibility and right to tell us about the future than those of us who have less of it. So, on that ground, I want to talk today about three aspects on which we might think a little deeper as we pass out and get into what they call the real world, as though this was unreal. Three parts: jobs and careers, living and life, society and community. These are the three aspects I've chosen to talk about it till about 12 o'clock tonight. Bear with me. Let's first talk about jobs and career. I'm assuming, like it was done unto me, I did it to my children, that as you are passing out now, especially those who have finished a 4-year degree or something like that, the goal that is dawning on you is get employed, earn money, get married, settle down. I can tell you almost all people of my generation will give you that advice. Now education is over, get employed, earn money, get married, settle down. Some of you will push your way and say, no, I'll go abroad. India is not good enough. Or somebody will say that, no, I will actually do another degree, but that will be just a few years. After that, again, people will tell you, get married, earn money, settle down. And in this process, there is nothing wrong. I mean, hopefully we should settle down. We should definitely get married. But what is wrong is to describe this as education. So what did you do? You finished your education and now you get jobs and all that follows. Actually, education is a lifelong process. It's a process that's supposed to prepare you for a very meaningful, useful, and happy life. What did we do in our generation who are now standing and giving you advice? We told you, memorize formula, remember large amounts of information, solve complex equations, explain theories, write exams, don't copy, get good marks, compete with others, be the best in the class, stand first at any cost, so that you will be eligible for jobs. Jobs will follow money, money will follow marriage, marriage will follow settling down. But before we do this, we must realize what is the guilt we have committed. A whole generation has confused literacy with learning, degrees with knowledge, qualifications with education. The words have been used interchangeably and hopefully not so productively. But before we can correct for the past, the interesting thing is the future is changing. The goalpost is moving. Some of us who realized that this is not education, we should be more relevant, we should be more industry ready, we should be application oriented, we should not just teach theory, we should not ask people to memorize, we should prepare them for the real world. Before we could build our, labs and teach you what are called soft skills to prepare you for future, the goalpost has moved. And what has happened now? What we are teaching in our labs are again getting obsolete. The other day I was listening to a presentation in IBM and they say the technology's change rate is now weeks and not months. When we update our curriculum, by the time the ink dries, it is outdated. So we are running into speed, a game. And what is interesting is we celebrated for decades something called soft skills. And they have become the hardest of all skills to learn. For I bet you guys here that you will perhaps probably make the best algorithm. But it will take a lifetime for you to win the trust of a friend. Trust, empathy, emotional intelligence, collaboration, we dismiss them as soft skills. I think they are the hardest. Harder than all the education or degrees that you have earned. What is worse is that we will teach you so hard in these beautiful buildings, but then we will shamelessly tell you that after you spend years here, wait. You must unlearn everything you have learned. And we'll write books, what they don't teach at Manipal, what they don't teach at Harvard. For we don't teach what we need to teach. And we'll tell you that the corporate life is different. You must stop learning and start doing. Stop competing for the first position and start collaborating. Stop seeking distinction and honors, but start sharing credit with others. Nothing of which we told you through the 22 years or 5 years of your life. And then suddenly we expect you to be team players. Did we do it? We didn't. But do we give sermons? Of course we do. And this is hypocrisy. I'm sure you are getting a hang of what I'm saying. I'm saying we have a double whammy. The double whammy is, in the education and job and context of careers, we have not only created a problem of representing or misrepresenting education for the next generation, but even in our course correcting strategies, we are slow. Our anticipation is weak. Our understanding of what needs to change in the unfolding future is flawed. Let's think little futuristically. Even assuming that we have the best of labs here, the best of curriculum here, and you have gone through the best of things, I'll tell you some interesting data that a recent McKinsey study says. 78% of all physically predictable jobs will be eaten up by robots. 69% of data processing, 64% of data collection type of jobs will simply be replaced by either machines or machine learning. Therefore, even as we make education more relevant, industry is making jobs more irrelevant, demanding newer forms of education. I think, therefore, I am humbled, and on behalf of at least some of my generation, I must say in all humility, I think we don't grasp this problem enough to give you advice about what you should do in your future. Let me talk a little bit about living and life. I have personally lived in a manner that now my doctors tell me has actually made my life shorter and more difficult to live as I go by. Most of the people in my generation have used up the earth and its resources, leaving very little for you. Consumed more than we need, and almost killed ourselves in the name of working hard and becoming first. The Global Burden of Disease Studies is a very interesting study that I came across. It says that over 7 billion of people in this world are faced with unsafe air. Our own capital city, not far from here, is choking. Many studies are showing that in India, the non-communicable diseases and the burden of cancer is just growing in a very, very rapid way. What is worse is that the world's temperature has already increased by 1 degree compared to the pre-industrial levels. And not too far, just in 1.5 years from today, in 2020, all climate studies are telling us that the world temperature will rise one more time for 2.5 degrees. And as those icebergs and glaciers melt, you can imagine what's going to happen. Yes, lifespans have increased. Medicine is better. Healthcare has improved. For those who can afford, of course. And the rich can, of course, live longer. And in the better parts of the world, the so-called advanced countries, there are already studies about the prospect of 100-year life. And 100-year life is real for a lot of people now. But when you are graduating now, if you ever thought about the prospect of 100-year life, many things will change for you about what is the speed at which you should get the job, and not the job alone, but the next promotion and the next big thing and the next big car and the next big life. Because there is at least 50 years of active life and career for all of you. You will live that longer. Curse or boon, we will see, depending on what it means. And in 50 years, you don't do jobs. You actually do possibly 3 different types of careers. And that is the future that is facing you. In this backdrop, small-time talk like do this, do that, actually to me sounds very vain and immature. We need some very breakthrough thinking here. We need answers that I don't think this generation has so far created. We need them to be created along with you, to whom the future belongs. You need to tell us how to save this world from the precipice to which it is moving. And in a manner of saying, I'm happy to follow you. Let me talk and take this opportunity a little bit about society and nation to which you belong. Our society, in my opinion, has never been as divided as today. We find every small reason to divide ourselves. We live a life of rank and rancor. Not just in India, across the world. Nation after nation is Brexiting it, bringing it, breaking it. You think of it, companies, country after country are trumping it. And we are no position to advise each other of any collaboration, because the great promise of the global world just before our eyes through trade tariff restrictions and great protectionism is shrinking. In that environment, to ask you to work in teams and collaborate looks sheer hypocrisy to me. What do we have to say at this time when we are actually living lynching, burning, dividing. Caste religion is never going away. More and more power and red light life of privilege and exclusivity. Look at what have we done. We have built beautiful roads. We don't drive on them any responsibly. Anybody who comes from an advanced country to this country where these beautiful buildings and great education is happening is surprised at why we should be killing ourselves by driving so irresponsibly. We don't have a sense of lane. We don't think it is important to wear a helmet. Is it because we lack education? Is it the basis on which we can build a country that can be proud of itself? We build towers that have no fire exits. We hold public functions on railway tracks. We brandish new motorcycles, can't wear a helmet. We buy new mobile phones and don't know how to talk smoothly and politely without bothering the neighbor. Play loud music in trains, buses, and where people are resting, or in flights, worse still, where people are captive. We fly brand new planes. Everyone is able to fly today. Aam Aadmi Udega has happened. Now, what is interesting is we can't wait for the plane to even fully stop. We have to pull our luggage and fall on each other. We are doing it. You are seeing it. You will do it. It's happening together. We are creating the future of India. We litter our streets. We throw garbage across the streets. We are among the loudest, noisiest, and most inconsiderate populations in this world. If somebody dies, accident on the road, nobody stops. Such inhuman behavior in a highly civilized country. And what is worse is that we don't know how to treat our women with respect. It's a shame. It's a shame that in 2018 we do not respect women. And on this basis we will build this great country. I'm aware, I'm proud. By the way, don't think I'm here to take a doomsday speech. India is growing by all standards. We have made millions of people come above the poverty line. As I drive in your city, every 5 years I travel here, I'm amazed to see these magnificent buildings are testimony of our capacity to grow. We have the best of satellites, the best of missiles, and the best of students who go abroad and produce the best of things. So there is nothing to be not so proud about. The bigger question is that we will be an economic superpower is no more a question. Will we be cultured and civilized is indeed a question. And my worry is by giving confusing descriptions of education to degree distribution, we may not be having enough discourse on what is it to be cultured and what is it to be civilized. In this country, we had the greatest of heritages of human thinking. Thousands of years ago, before wisdom began anywhere, this country's foresight thinkers thought of the world, the Vasudha, as a kutum, as one world, one family. We are the inheritors of such great wisdom, but everything has to be revisited to us from somewhere else. I want to say at the end that we have a great future. I don't want you to mistake me that I've come here to give you a pessimistic thing. We have a future. Our future will happen irrespective of all this chaos. You will make it happen. The only thing, do us a favor. Don't listen too much to old fogies like me. Don't make the mistakes we did. Don't repeat the paradigms of today into the future. You have to reimagine your life. You have to lead it more responsibly than we did. And you have to protect your earth for yourself, for you will live longer than all of us who are giving speech here. And that can come only if you take some practical steps. For speeches tend to be pretty large, ambitious, and often do not point to what might we do after we go from here. One thing certainly we'll do is throw our hat, and by throwing the hat, we will also throw all that we heard now. And I am very sure and thankful that you at least heard. I used to actually hoot. Now, there are 5 things that I want to say that perhaps I want to do going forward. And my invitation is you, any one of you or all of you, part of you together, to hold my hand, hold the hand of all the people sitting here and lead us into the future. You are the future. We are counting you to lead us. One thing I want to do every day to remind myself that as soon as I get a degree, my education actually begins. It gives me the license to learn, not the completion of learning. So I ask you, along with myself, to learn till the last breath, for education is more about learning to learn. It is not what you have learned that will matter, because that will become obsolete. But the strength and the competence of learning to learn will never be obsolete. Look inwards. Be more mindful. Give a little pause between stimulus and response so that you can avoid what the chairperson so rightly said, the instant mindset. Just do one act of kindness today, every week. Help someone, improve something, make a difference. Be productive. Don't do jugaad, for God's sake. Whoever is celebrating jugaad is misleading this country. We cannot be global, world class by doing jugaad. We need to build sustainable, built to last processes and solutions, and I count on you to do that. We have the opportunity, the youth of this country, to lead India into its future and make it a global leader, not in economy, but in culture and civilization. I count on you and wish you all the best. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. May I request our chairperson, Professor K. Ramnarayan, to honor our chief guest with a memento as a token of our appreciation.